What happens when physical evidence appears, but the source doesn't exist? When military personnel report encounters they can't explain. When entire regions avoid certain areas after dark because of lights that shouldn't be there. Britain. 3 anomalies. 3 challenges to everything we think we understand about reality. Devon, 1855. The country wakes to find hoof-like prints in the snow. But these aren't animal tracks. They stretch for over 100 miles. They cross rooftops. They scale walls. They traverse rivers without breaking stride. No creature on Earth moves like this. Yet the prints are real. Documented. Measured. Still unexplained. Rendlesham Forest, Suffolk, 1980. U.S. military personnel stationed at a British air base report unexplained lights descending into the woods. They investigate. They encounter a craft. They document radiation readings. They file official reports. The British government releases files. America stays silent. Britain's Roswell. Except the witnesses were trained military observers. East Anglia. The Lantern Man. For centuries, travelers report seeing a light in the Finlands. It moves. It beckons. Those who follow, they don't return. Or they barely escape, disoriented, lost in areas they know by daylight. Folklore? Maybe. Except the sightings never stopped. 3 cases. Physical evidence. Military testimony. Centuries of consistent reports. Tonight, we're examining 3 British anomalies where history, science, and folklore collide, and none of them offer comfortable answers. Watch closely, because some mysteries don't fade with time. They accumulate evidence. In February 1855, the quiet towns and villages of Devon, England awoke to a mystery that baffled the local population. Overnight, following a rare snowstorm, residents discovered strange hoof-like marks stretching for miles across the snow. The tracks appeared in a near-perfect line, cutting across rooftops, walls, rivers, and fences, showing no signs of disruption or deviation. The footprints were unlike any animal known in the region. Some resembled cloven hooves, others like narrow, elongated marks, single file, with almost supernatural precision. They extended over 40 miles, moving across farm fields, churchyards, and frozen rivers, sometimes passing through areas impossible for livestock or humans to traverse. Witnesses described the sight as eerie, particularly because the snow was fresh and untouched before the prints appeared. Newspapers documented the event extensively, publishing sketches and accounts from towns like Cristo, Moreton-Hampstead, and Widecombe-in-the-Moor. Farmers, clergy, and law enforcement all inspected the trails, yet no explanation emerged. Attempts to trace the creature ended abruptly. No sightings were reported, and the tracks seemed to vanish into thin air. Scientists and skeptics later proposed theories: escaped kangaroos from traveling shows, Arctic foxes, or a hoax perpetrated by pranksters. None convincingly explained the sheer distance, straight-line formation, or obstacles crossed. The Devil's Footprints remain a unique event in British history, a phenomenon documented in detail, observed by credible witnesses, and leaving no tangible culprit behind. For weeks, the snow carried a silent testimony of something unexplainable. Villagers reported unease and whispered speculation, from supernatural causes to devilish intervention. The marks eventually faded with the thaw, but the story endured, becoming a legend of the English countryside where logic failed and mystery walked across the snow. As the snow melted in Devon, the Devil's Footprints left behind more questions than answers. Witnesses who had followed sections of the trail reported its inexplicable continuity. It crossed walls, roofs, and even frozen rivers, showing no signs of deviation or interruption. Farmers inspected their fields, parish priests walked along the paths, and local magistrates attempted to determine the source. Every investigation led to the same conclusion: no known animal, human, or natural force could account for the tracks. Local newspapers fueled the legend, publishing accounts of terrified residents who claimed the tracks seemed to mock human understanding. Some villagers reported unusual sounds at night: soft tapping, distant thuds, or the sensation of being watched. While skeptics suggested hoaxes or exotic animals, these theories could not explain the linear, unbroken path across diverse terrain, nor the sheer distance covered in a single night. The Devil's Footprints left a lasting impression on Devon's collective memory. For decades, scholars and folklorists studied the event, highlighting it as one of the most thoroughly documented supernatural occurrences in Britain. Maps drawn at the time show the trail weaving across multiple parishes, sometimes vanishing suddenly, as if the unknown entity had walked into thin air. From the frozen fields of Devon, we now shift to Suffolk's Rendlesham Forest, December 1980, a place where daylight was replaced by glowing lights, and the unexplained invaded one of Britain's most famous military installations. Unlike the snow-covered trails left by a mysterious footprint, here, multiple U.S. Air Force personnel would witness phenomena that defy conventional explanation, marking the beginning of a modern British UFO mystery that continues to intrigue researchers worldwide. In late December 1980, Rendlesham Forest in Suffolk, England, became the center of one of the UK's most famous UFO incidents. The events unfolded near RAF Woodbridge and RAF Bentwaters, bases used by the United States Air Force at the time. On the nights of December 26th to 28th, military personnel reported seeing strange lights in the trees, glowing orbs, and an unknown craft landing within the forest. Airmen first noticed flashing lights moving through the forest, accompanied by a metallic, humming sound. Believing it might be a downed aircraft, a team entered the woods and discovered glowing marks on the ground and indentations resembling landing gear. Radiation readings at the site were unusually high in certain areas, adding a scientific layer to the unexplained phenomenon. Witnesses described the craft as triangular or cigar-shaped, with pulsing colored lights that defied conventional explanation. Multiple personnel, including Lieutenant Colonel Charles Halt, documented the sightings. Halt recorded an audio log during his patrol through the forest, describing lights that moved against wind direction, a sensation of static electricity, and objects that appeared to defy gravity. These recordings remain among the most referenced evidence of UFO encounters in Britain. Despite skepticism, the case was investigated by the UK Ministry of Defence, who concluded it posed no threat to national security, yet they did not fully explain the phenomena. Locals reported strange animal behavior, unexplained sounds, and lingering light anomalies in the area for months afterward. Rendlesham Forest became a magnet for researchers, journalists, and UFO enthusiasts, and the story endures in books, documentaries, and government archives. From this forest of mysterious lights, we move to East Anglia's Fens, home to the folkloric Lantern Man. Unlike the UFO witnesses of 1980, here villagers and travelers report eerie, glowing lights that appear to follow or mislead wanderers in the marshes. The Rendlesham Forest sightings did not end with the first encounter. On December 28, 1980, multiple Air Force personnel returned to the forest, documenting glowing lights that moved between trees, bright beams that illuminated the undergrowth, and an object that appeared to hover silently above the ground. Lieutenant Colonel Charles Halt, leading the patrol, recorded his observations on an audio tape, describing lights that seemed intelligent, moving in ways no aircraft could. Investigators found strange impressions on the forest floor, suggesting a craft had landed, yet no physical craft was ever recovered. Radiation readings at these depressions were unusually high, leaving scientists puzzled. Witnesses also reported sensations of heat, tingling on the skin, and a feeling of disorientation, reinforcing the eerie, unexplained nature of the events. The Ministry of Defense reviewed the case but concluded there was no threat, providing no explanation for the phenomena. UFO researchers have since analyzed photographs, audio recordings, and witness testimonies, yet none offer a conclusive answer. The forest remains a hotspot for enthusiasts, many of whom continue to report strange lights decades later. From the shadows of Rendlesham Forest, we move to the East Anglian Fenlands, where legend tells of the Lantern Man. Unlike the military witnesses of Suffolk, villagers and travelers describe small, glowing lights that drift along marshes at night, often leading people astray. The lights vanish when approached, leaving only the eerie quiet of the fens. In these stories, folklore and unexplained phenomenon intertwine, carrying centuries of mystery across England's landscapes. Across the fenlands of East Anglia, a centuries-old legend persists. The Lantern Man travelers along marshes and dikes tell of glowing lights appearing at night, often hovering just beyond reach, bobbing gently, or drifting along narrow paths. Unlike lanterns carried by humans, these lights seem to move with purpose, sometimes following those who pass through the moors, only to vanish when approached. Accounts date back to at least the 17th century, recorded in local parish records and folklore collections. Witnesses describe the lights as small, flickering orbs, sometimes red, sometimes golden, often appearing near narrow causeways or deep water channels. Farmers warn that anyone tempted to chase the light risks falling into ditches, quicksand, or marshes. The Lantern Man is said to lure travelers away from safe paths, disappearing before anyone can reach it. Modern investigators, folklorists, and paranormal researchers have documented sightings since the 19th century. Some suggest natural explanations, bioluminescent gases, swamp methane, or reflections of distant fires. Others point to optical illusions or folk exaggerations. Yet many sightings occur in locations where these natural causes are unlikely, and patterns of the light's movement often suggest intelligent behavior. Visitors to the fens recount a deep unease. The quiet is almost absolute, broken only by the distant hoot of an owl or the murmur of water as a small, glowing light appears ahead. It shifts, hesitates, and then drifts farther, always out of reach. The phenomenon is so consistent that the Lantern Man has become a fixture in East Anglian culture, a cautionary tale blending folklore, mystery, and observation. Even today, locals remain wary of the marshes after dark, knowing the lights are not mere stories. Across centuries, the Lantern Man endures, a haunting presence that refuses explanation, bridging history, legend, and the unexplained. The Lantern Man sightings in East Anglia are not limited to folklore. They persist in modern accounts. Farmers, hikers, and late-night travelers report seeing small, flickering lights moving across the marshes, sometimes bobbing in rhythm, sometimes drifting sideways against the wind. The lights appear to react to observers, halting when approached and vanishing without a trace, leaving only cold, damp ground and the quiet rustle of reeds. Historical records describe similar occurrences, from parish logs in the 1600s to eyewitness reports in the 1800s and 1900s, showing remarkable consistency in location and behavior. In some accounts, travelers are led astray along narrow paths, almost as if the lights intend to misguide them, sometimes toward water channels or unstable marshlands. While no one has been harmed directly by the phenomenon, the psychological impact, fear, disorientation, and trepidation, is well documented. Natural explanations have been suggested, such as ignis fatuus, a phenomenon caused by methane gas igniting above marshy ground, or optical illusions created by distant light reflecting off mist. Yet many sightings occur in areas where these conditions are absent, and observers often note the lights move with deliberate patterns that do not match wind or terrain. Some paranormal researchers propose the Lantern Man represents a residual haunting or intelligent light entity, though no consensus exists. The fens themselves amplify the experience. Vast, flat, and silent at night, they create an otherworldly backdrop where even a small light feels alive. Those who walk the marshes after dusk describe a tension that grows with each step, a sense that the land itself is watching. The Lantern Man is not a one-time event, but a recurring presence, a blend of folklore, natural mystery, and unexplained phenomena that continues to intrigue, frighten, and mystify anyone who ventures into East Anglia's haunted wetlands. Devon, 1855. The Devil's footprints crossed 100 miles of snow. No explanation was ever found. Rendlesham Forest, 1980. Military witnesses filed reports. Radiation was detected. The files were released. The answers weren't. East Anglia. The Lantern Man still appears in the fens. People still follow. Some still don't make it back. 3 anomalies across Britain. 3 events that shouldn't exist in rational history. Here's what makes these different. These aren't just stories. The footprints were measured by dozens of witnesses across multiple towns. Rendlesham has declassified documents and military testimony. The Lantern Man has been reported for over 400 years. Same location, same behavior, same danger. This is Britain's unexplained trinity: historic physical evidence, modern military encounter, and enduring folkloric phenomenon. Science tried. The military documented. Folklore warned. None of it adds up. All of it persists. Have you walked through Rendlesham Forest at night? Explored the fenlands of East Anglia? Researched the Devil's footprints beyond the surface explanation? Drop your findings below. Anomalies this old have layers most people never discover. Share this with someone in Devon, Suffolk, or East Anglia. They know these stories aren't just history. They're geography. Subscribe to WhisprFrame for more British anomalies where the evidence survived, the witnesses were credible, and the explanations never arrived. Because Britain doesn't just have history. It has anomalies that rewrote the limits of what history could contain. The footprints crossed impossible terrain. The craft landed in a military zone. The light still lures in the fens. And Britain? It's keeping far stranger secrets than these 3. Which anomaly challenges your reality most?